Ciao Davide.
Ciao
So
Silvia,
happy to see
buongiorno.
you. The last
Morning.
talk of our live streaming, so
Yeah.
you have the duty to do that. Last but not least, of course.
Thank you,
Ciao
Silvia.
Davide. Ciao Davide.
Ciao. Have a nice
The
day.
floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. I'm glad to have this final slot of these 24 hours marathons. I would love to thank all of my colleagues that did the night duty. I think it was really interesting and challenging at the same time. So for this last slot, we are moving from Bangladesh to China, to Shanghai. And I'm very, very happy to introduce Professor Lau from Tongji University College of Design and Innovation, live from Shanghai. Ciao, Lau.
Ciao, David. Ciao, everybody. I'm so happy to be here.
Really happy to see you. There is a special relationship in between Politecnico di Milano and Tongji University. I'm associate professor here at the Department of Design. And we have been starting our relationship kind of more than 12 years ago about a double degree program with students of product service system, and then we enlarged it to other field of design. So we can say that we started a community with Tongji University and with your college. And community is the word, the key word that you chose today to talk with us. Why did you choose that?
Yes, at the end, I find that there's something much more important than the physical, the tangible thing. I was educated as an architect, and even, before 2005, I've been realized 400,000 square meters public building. So I was a very productive architect. But step by step, I feel that the life and the people and the community behind the architecture tangible thing actually is much more important. So basically, in the recent 10 to 15 years, I've been working on this topic for years, and especially during this COVID-19 challenges, I also feel that the sense of a community is so strong, and I also feel that it will become more and more important. So that's the reason I decided to choose the community as a main topic for today.
Thanks, Lau. Yeah, when we're talking about community, usually we're talking about not only a group of people, but we are talking about people that have a relationship, people that have common interests. It's a kind of system in which every single element is connected to another. And so I think that makes the difference, especially in emergencies, or in every other context where the final goal and the common interest is the main core. And I'm talking about that because both of us, we are belonging to several community, and really depending on the goal and on the interest and on the final aim. I'm talking about Cumulus Association, for instance, or again the double degrees, or lots of projects that we are developing in our universities. We are even related to the coffee community, because I know that you are a coffee lover. So let me take mine for this, this breakfast. I think you have yours. I remember that you have an Italian coffee lover. So, but yeah, jokes apart, the power of community. What is, in your opinion, and even according to the projects that you have developed within the university, what is the power of community?
Yes, I for sure. When we talk about the community, and community is beyond the space, beyond the neighborhood nowadays. When we talk about that word, it always starts with some common interest. But I say that there's something much more important than the common interest, and that's a value. That's a common value. So the reason why, for instance, you mentioned about the Cumulus, and why Cumulus we can gather so many people, go so many universities and colleges. I think one of the reasons is people, believe in Cumulus value. And Cumulus is about connecting, and the world in a super flat way. So it's in an open and flat way. So there's an open platform that can connect everybody's interest. And so, for instance, I in 2010 when I hosted the Cumulus conference in Shanghai, and I did something I still feel very proud of. I connected Cumulus with DESIS, because when I was elected as a board member of Cumulus, I mean in 2010, at that time I think that Cumulus, I mean we need to have a kind of common value proposition. For instance, we talk about sustainability. So when I get more and more familiar with Cumulus, then I understand that that's maybe something wrong. Cumulus is a group of people who has a different opinion, but they are all talking about design. So I mean, it would be very dangerous that, okay, so Cumulus is only go for that value. But I mean, as a community, and we can say that, okay, please look at that part. That's a relevant topic, and we should pay attention. And then the people who are interested in, and they can gather. And then DESIS, it's in a different way. DESIS has a very, very clear, I mean, value proposition. And we can tell from its name, design for the social innovation and the sustainability. I would say the more is a design for the social innovation towards sustainability. So when we connect the Cumulus and the DESIS, and then I mean a group of people who believe in that story or they're interested in that story, and they can gather and further the agenda. And but at the same time, I mean, on Cumulus platform and as people, they have different opinions, they can also gather. So that's a value. And for me, I would say that the community, I mean, start with, as I mentioned before, start with a common interest, but later, I mean, it would be developed through a common value. And then much more important, if the community, we really can do something together and change the world in a positive way. So that's something, I mean, I feel so important.
Yes, thank you. It is very, very interesting. And for those who are not familiar, I would love just to remember that Cumulus is an international association that is including more than 250 schools, design schools in the world. And DESIS is a network which has more than 50 labs in the world dealing with design for social innovation and sustainability, funded in 2008. So both of them, we can consider them community for the issues, for the reason that Professor Lowe told. There is even, to me, other community that, especially in this emergency time during the pandemic, helped us in a way to, let's say, to survive. And to me, for instance, it was the university community, meaning that students that I met online only for this semester, and it was an appointment that gave me the chance to have an eye in the world, because we had students from all over the world. And the other one is the neighborhood. So the dimension of having an offline community still in the lockdown, still close in your house, just by open your window and talk. This is what happened in Milan, for instance. Talk with the people in front of you, or a balcony to balcony, and having a toast with a glass of prosecco in the night, just to have a feeling, just to have a relief from this time. I don't know what happened in China and in Shanghai, but I'm very eager to see, because I spent 3 years there, and so I had the chance to get in touch with the community, the Chinese community, that has its habits, tradition, and to me they're very valuable. So what happened in the lockdown, Lowe?
Now, actually, Shanghai is step by step get back to its normal life. But of course, I mean, the university, I mean, still in some way, it's a half locked. So, and the students, they can come back to the campus based on their own motivation. So they can apply to back to the campus, but because still there's some control inside of the campus, the majority of students, they still decide not to come. But the professors, I mean, the faculty is already back to the university. So we are actually working basically every day. And I will say that if you look at Shanghai, I mean, we start earlier and we end up with this challenge in a very short time. it's due to the different government system. I don't want to say that which is better, but I will say that in Shanghai, actually, and the city has already think beyond the COVID-19 situation. For instance, and for the city governance, and Shanghai has already talked about how to connect the resilient city with the smarter city strategy to make such kind of pandemic, can be discovered much earlier, and then the city can take reaction much earlier in a much efficient way. So this is something so far, so good. But also, I will say that because during this period of time, and the university also play a very important role. So, for instance, the professors are always asked to interview and express their opinion on how to react to the kind of global challenges. And we discovered one thing is actually extremely interesting. It's I'm talking about the importance of the community and the neighborhood. And as you correctly mentioned, that the neighborhood has a kind of physical, sense, has a kind of a space sense. And if you remember that during the most difficult time of COVID-19, and the majority of people, they are stay at home and they work at home, and it changed people's mind in a dramatic way. And for instance, I see the huge change after the COVID-19 situation is on higher education, not only higher education, on education. And but at the same time, when we talk about the quality, before, majority of the city, the quality of life, always lies in the city centers. They are all centralized the solution. But when people were isolated at the home, suddenly the living space, was greatly and shrinked. And in this way, there's a little quality inside of the individual home. So then, if we talk about one end is a city center or city square, another end is your individual home, and actually there's some in-between space, which is a neighborhood. So if we talk about the life of the quality of life in the neighborhood, and then we suddenly discover that the neighborhood can be much better than before. And also, for instance, some of the company already announced that they permanently, allowed its employee to stay at home, to work at the home. And but as I say, that in your home, they're limited, facility and the flexibility and the community. So if we can go a little bit, further into the neighborhood level to improve the quality of life in the neighborhood, then it will help. It will have a dramatic scenario for the city structure. So it's not a centralized position strategy, but it's a more distributed strategy. So this is so far. This is something we are doing in Shanghai, and with the support of Tongji University. Actually, we are building a kind of neighborhood of innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship. We call NICE 2035 project. I was very happy that 2 weeks later we're gonna open a new cafeteria and a bar in our on that street.
I'm very happy to hear about that, because what is happening in Milan, for instance, is pretty much the same. The governance of the municipality just announced that they will boost the life in 15 minutes, meaning that you have to have all of your services at 15 minutes distance at your home, in order to guarantee that your neighborhood level will be the one that supports you in your everyday life, meaning that you have to have your school there, your shops, you can move sustainably, so by bike or by foot. And this is really another dimension that we tested in the lockdown, because we were not able to do anything else than going out and go to the supermarket that is a stone throw from your home, or we were allowed just to have a walk around your neighborhood of 200 meters. So this shift of dimension, it's very interesting, especially in those very big cities. I mean, Shanghai, I think that nowadays it's kind of 24 millions or something like that. Milan is 1 million and 500, but it's one of the biggest cities in Italy. So to be reconnect to the neighborhood dimension, even in a context in which you are in a very big one. I know that the project that you were mentioning, the NIS 2035, was starting a few years ago, and I know that you are having lots of success about that, because we were able to engage the local community around the CPIN campus in Tongji in doing lots of activities and services. Would you love to tell us, apart from the cafeteria that it's opening in a few weeks?
Yes,
would you love
that's
to tell
good.
us
So, yeah, actually, the project is much more than a cafeteria. One of the main reason we decide to start this project, I mean, a couple of years ago, is we have a question. So the question is, does the community be end of it's a community, the end of the innovation for the city, or the community can be the engine of innovation for a city? So, I mean, of course, I mean, our answer is second. So we think that the community could be a new engine for the city, especially if we connected the community here and there. So there's a lots of a new innovation engine for the city. So the city can be, I mean, change in a dramatic way. So this is something that we are now thinking. And the university play a very important role, because the professors, students, and knowledge ecosystem, when it can be merged together with community development, that would be a fantastic scenario. Actually, Silicon Valley, in some way, is a kind of the old version, but I would say that now what we want to build is a kind of a design-driven, I mean, strategy, I mean, surrounding the university. And of course, we will change the neighborhood, I mean, the image of neighborhood, the life of the neighborhood, the business ecosystem of neighborhood, but much more important is not only this change, but also change people's, I mean, value proposition. Before, people think that, okay, high quality life live in the city center, but now it's a distributed society, and we think that also we can build, I mean, the high quality life in the community. And we did that project before the COVID-19 challenges, and when the COVID-19 came, and suddenly it became a kind of new ways of thinking. It reminds me a very important words term, I mean, for urban planning, that was zoning. I mean, zoning is a very important concept for urban planning. But before, when we use this zoning, and we use as a top-down logic. But now, I mean, when we talk about zoning, it's a kind of a bottom-up initiatives. So here and there, if you compare, I mean, the centralized solution, and we feel that the social life in neighborhood level is a much diversity than, I mean, the social life in your individual home, for sure. But it's also much safer if we compare to the centralized solution. So there's a lot of potential we are still, I mean, working on to dig it out.
Yes, I think you're very right, and I think that the effort that you are putting in creating a community around your university is one of the best examples that we can find really at the international level. This is something that we are very aligned, since we are trying to open up our boundaries of the campus and going in neighborhoods in the city of Milan to open living labs, to create opportunity to talk with people, to co-design with people, to engage people in processes of innovation. And this is very, and we can see, and we have seen some of the examples in the past that we have done that were more successful than others in which maybe they are not involved, because the process of belong to an output, to be engaged in the process, it's an issue of success at the end of the day. We have to close a little bit earlier because Luisa, I think that Luisa is here with us.
Hi, hello.
And so
Hey, Luisa.
Lou, I couldn't miss you, so I entered in the conversation earlier because I wanted to say hello to you this morning.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, so nice to see you.
So
Really
we are closing this session with you, Lau. That was the last one of these 24 hours, and we leave the floor to Luisa.
Hello, Barbara.
And
Hello.